Okay, and we're back. It's a couple days later, again getting distracted with other stuff, but I did make the two pieces we need to serve as these spacers that are on the original bracket. So I've got the one that's an inch thick, and then I made the one that goes on the back side that's a 1/4 inch thick. I started to shoot a video of me working on the lathe with these, but unfortunately the way my lathe is set up right now, my rotary phase converter is right underneath the lathe, and it just made way too much noise on video. You couldn't hear anything that I was saying, so I just went ahead and did it off camera. Now I started to think about parting these off in the lathe, especially this one because it's only a 1/4 inch thick, but I wasn't having good luck when I did attempt it. So, and the only reason I was thinking about it is because my bandsaw doesn't cut real straight. So I decided to go ahead and cut the blanks, and this one, the inch one, I could hold in my 3-jaw enough to face it off and kind of break these edges. And then this end, I put a pretty big chamfer just to help when I weld it to get a little better root penetration there, since this is a pretty big hunk of steel going on a 1/4 inch plate. The smaller one though was going to be a bit of a challenge, and then I remembered when I got my lathe, it had been the guy that I bought it from never hooked it up and used it, but the guy who owned it before him apparently was some kind of a machinist, and he had made these pot chucks, and I actually got 5 of them of different diameters. This is the only one that's ever been actually used. The rest are just, still flush across the front. And then they have this, I hadn't seen this before, but this little 5C adapter. I don't know if this is common for hot chucks or what. I'm not sure what size this is. But the guy obviously was a better machinist than me and made a bunch of these. And as it turns out, it was already set perfectly for this 1.5" stock. So for the thin one, it just snaps right down in there. See if you can see that. And that was just perfect, just enough to face that off, break the corner a little bit, and that's it. So we're getting closer here, getting our new bracket looking like our old bracket. So the next thing I think I'm going to do is sandblast this, which helps with welding. It cleans it up nice for the welding. And then also because it's going to be painted, of course it'll help with the painting. So let's go step over to the sandblaster, and I'll talk a little bit about that, about my sandblasting unit, and then we'll see if we can get some video. I don't know how well it'll turn out, but I'll try to shoot a little bit of video of what's going on inside the cabinet when I'm doing it. Alright, meet you over there. Alright, so this is my sandblasting cabinet. It's a Kelco 24-inch cabinet that I picked up last summer. This is actually a bit of a rescue. It was at an auction, and it was, I'll cut to a slideshow here with some pictures in a second, but it was very badly rusted. It had been sitting outside for a long time. The motor had kind of been pushed down into the fan cowling a little bit, and the top of it had been caved in a little bit. So it kind of had a cool patina on it, which I know guys that make rat rods and stuff like that, they just shoot a coat of clear on it. Looks good maybe on an old car. I wasn't so sure about with machine tools, for resale value, things like that. If it looks old, it is old. So I went ahead and took it all apart, repainted, sanded it all down, re-primed it, repainted it, got everything cleaned up and working again. It's been a great little cabinet. It's, like I said before, it's 24-inch. It's got 2 integrated lights. It has integrated a dust collection unit. Here it has 4 filter bags that hang inside this section here. And then there's a media collection reuse tray down at the bottom. And then the fan, the blower up here, is powered by this 1/2 horse motor. It's kind of loud when it's running, but I'll bring you around to the side here. You can see the front. And then I'll try to get some video, see if it'll turn out of me actually sandblasting the part that I have in there. All in all, it's been a great little cabinet. The only thing I don't have for it, I don't have a foot control, so I'm just kind of doing the stab and go with the air hose on a fitting until I can find myself a foot pedal and get it plumbed in. And then the other thing it didn't have was the back of the nozzle. This is a 5/16 nozzle, so it moves some sand. I've got a 5-horse 80-gallon compressor, and it'll make it run. So I'll probably get a close-up of this. I had the front part of the gun with the nozzle came with the cabinet that was buried. This actually had like sand. The gloves were all rotted out of it. The mesh that goes over the window was pretty much just rust. And it didn't have the back of the gun, so I had to make this little piece to get the gun working. I thought about going to a smaller handgun, but I really like how fast this big nozzle moves the sand and cleans stuff up. Mostly use this to clean up, kind of like the part we're going to work on. It's got mill scale on it. Some of the parts that come out of my scrap pile, they're all rusty, and this thing will just tear them right up. Get them nice and clean. So let me bring you around and we'll take a look at the front of it. Alright, so here's the front of it. It has this nice cast aluminum bezel that surrounds the glass, and then it has these aluminum lights. So all of this was pretty rusty and pretty tarnished, so I took everything off. I just kind of wire wheeled it, even just the, I don't know if this is galvanized pipe or just like black pipe, but it came out even after wire brushing, came out still with a nice patina, so I kind of cleaned everything up. I think it looks pretty good. Okay, so we're back over here at the welding table, or what I like to call my welding table. A few years ago, I picked up a lot of this 1/4-inch sheet drops. Actually, the guy had bought it from a place, and he had it at his place, and he never used it. So I picked up all this 1/4-inch material for, I think it was right around $100. And when you kind of, came in different sizes, some of them were full sheet length, and some of them were pieces like this, which are 2 foot by 4 foot. And I've got 2 of them stacked up here to make it a little more stable. When you add it all up, it was almost 2 full sheets of 1/4-inch steel. So I've been using this for lots of different stuff over the years. 1/4-inch happens to be, pretty good size for the size of equipment I have and stuff like that. So I'm like most people probably watching this, Craigslist addict, always looking for a good deal. Anyway, so we're done with the sandblasting. We're back over here. We got a part nice and clean. So it's time to start laying out where these bosses go. And then you can kind of see, I talked about it before in this one, that this one's not centered. So we're just going to weld this on here, and then have the hole mark from the back side. and then we'll drill it through on the mill. So we just kind of need to get this really close. It's not a real critical measurement as long as you know, our hole is somewhere in this material. So I kind of been looking at this. If you come in off of this corner type area, they as a reference, you know, it's probably about, you know, about 5/16 over here. And on the side, they just came in about 1/8. So if we just try to get ours close, probably something like that, and somewhere right about there for that one. I'm just going to take a general off of that corner, about 1.25 inches. And we're probably more rotate it a little bit back like that. So probably something about like that. And clamp it down. And I'll grab the MIG welder and we'll weld that thing in place. Be right back. Okay, I've repositioned the camera to get it out of the way. We're getting ready to weld this. Got the welder set up. What I have for a MIG welder is a Miller-Matic Vintage, which from what I understand was the reissue of sort of classic Miller-Matic 200. Great little welder, does up to about 3/8 for quarter and like 5/16 material. It really usually welds pretty nice. I'm not a professional welder. I did take welding in high school many years ago, and I've done some welding since, but I'm not certified or anything like that. I did want to comment for a minute. I used to use one of these, you know, the Harbor Freight Blue Flame helmets that they always have on sale, and it served me well over the years. But recently, I picked up this Speed Glass helmet, and I believe this is an older model from what I could find online, but it was basically brand new. The guy was retiring. This was amongst the stuff, you know, that was up for auction, and if I remember right, I paid about $50 for this helmet, which is what the Harbor Freight one costs if you're not buying it on sale, not buying it at a coupon. But boy, what a difference in quality. Much better. It's slightly larger viewing area on this helmet than the Harbor Freight, but it's just a lot clearer, and definitely the sensitivity and how fast it switches and everything seems to be a lot better. And then staying switch. Sometimes I have problems with the Harbor Freight if I'm welding outside. It'll flicker in and out, which, you know, ends up giving you sunspots. So anyway, let's get the gloves on and get started here. And I think since I have that clamped pretty tight, I'm just going to try and weld it. Not in one pass, but I'm not going to tack weld. I think I'm really going to go for it. I think I'm not blocking the camera too much. So I don't know if I can get you in for a close-up. Let's try. Not too shabby. Alright, I'm going to let that cool down, and then we'll get set up. And I'm going to let that cool down, and we'll get set up, and we'll go to the other side. Okay, reposition the camera. The clouds are breaking up outside, and I'm starting to get a lot of glare from the windows here. Don't really have any way of covering them up here in my shop to block the glare. Anyway, so flip the part over, kind of got it positioned, similar stuff to the other one. This one shows about 3/8 in off of that corner. you know, an eighth or something there, just enough to run a weld in. I think that's probably just a little too far inboard. Kind of same measurements all the way around. So just need to get in here and weld it down, move the stuff I don't want weld spatter all over. That's on. Just will stick out there. Let's see what we get. Starting to look more and more like the moving apart here. Really, the next thing on this is drill the holes, and then we got to start looking at the other plate that's still on the backhoe that this pins to. The cylinder and the stabilizer arm go here. There's another plate. So I got to look at that and decide what I want to do about that. Just let this cool down. Okay, so we're back over here at the backhoe, and this is the other plate that is slightly warped. So the one we've been working on welds in here, and then the stabilizer cylinder and the stabilizer arm go here, and then you raise and lower the stabilizer arm, and that's to steady the backhoe of the tractor. So, you know, I've been studying this a little bit, and really, it's only bent, and it's pretty even, you know, just kind of right here in this area, but, you know, a little more than, or a little less than halfway down. We're about 1/8 of an inch in the back. If we kind of come up here, a little less, more than a 16, maybe 3/32, something like that. About 1/8 right there. So, you know, it's not too bad. It's not twisted. Doesn't appear to be twisted or anything like that. It just appears to have a cup in it. So, I think what I may try is, you know, farmer's favorite tool here. This is my 3-pound hammer. Thought I might give it a few exploratory taps here and see if we can't save it and save ourselves the trouble of having to make another plate. So, first things first, ear protection. I'm already deaf enough. I don't need any more. And let's give this thing a few whacks. I think I might move the pump here. This is the PTO pump that hooks to the back of the tractor and drives the hydraulics on the back. Let's move this out of the way over here. Not blocking you too bad. it back in there. I think we made a little bit of change here. Handle's a little short to really get to the back here. If I was left-handed, this would probably be a lot easier. Not much of a change, so you know what that means, right? Get a bigger hammer, the BFH. Now this head I got at an auction, I think for like $5 or something. It had a broken handle, so I bought a new handle and replaced it. But it's a nice piece of steel. This is actually made in Japan, 8-pounder. You're doing something like splitting wood and hitting another piece of steel with it. It really has a nice ring to it. Let's see if we can. Where I'm kind of hitting it, right where it's mostly bent, is where the top weld was for those two brackets that go above and below the cylinder. So they could probably the bottom one let go, top one held on a little longer, and that's bent the plate there, mostly bent the plate there. So let's give it a try. Oh yeah. Here's what we got here. Probably kind of went too far. Right here. Oh, that's better. That's looking a lot better. Probably down to out here on the front now. We're good. We're flush with the roll all the way across. We're kind of starting about move it this side of halfway to the back. We still have probably 16 up front, and a little bit more maybe in the back there. So let's see what we can do. Good. The back doesn't matter as much as the front up here. The pins, find a piece of material same size as what these pins are. Let's just slide it through there and see what it looks like. That bushing's got some wear, and when it sits like that, it doesn't look very level compared to the rest of the hoe, but you kind of pull that up, and it sit a little straighter in there. Actually, it looks pretty good. Just at the bottom. Same thing there, that looks pretty sloppy. Now, there's no real no real tolerances that need to be on those pins. They're actually the leg and the bushing for the cylinder get grease. These bushings don't get any grease. They don't really need to rotate. There's nothing that stops the pin from rotating. They just go through and have cotter pins on either side. So I think we saved that plate. We saved ourselves a bunch of work, making a new plate, welding it in there, painting, all that. So next thing is to drill the holes in our other plate once it cools down, and look at how to fit it back in here. And look at getting the two plates back in here. I've got a bunch of grinding I'll need to do here, clean up these old welds. I didn't take those off originally when I cleaned this side up because I figured I was probably making another plate. But looks like I'll clean that up and we'll get back.